It's Tesla Tuesday. Let's take a look at the chart and the options interest. Everyone loves to hate this one and they hate to love it. Strange on this one, I actually want it to drop more, even though I really am bullish on it. I want it to be cheaper so I can buy more. It's obviously got this outstanding gap here. It tried to fill it, couldn't quite get it. I'd love if it did. Historically, Tesla does like to fill its gaps. So fingers crossed we do see more downside on this to this resistance confluence. It'd be really nice to see it get to these levels. 200 especially, I would love that. Tesla is a bit of a weird one. Obviously, a lot of people questioning why it's expensive right now, which it is based on forward earnings and all that jazz, probably by most metrics. But Tesla, it's purely based on future growth. If you believe in that growth, then you should buy shares at this price because they will be cheap looking forward several years. So if you believe Tesla is not going to achieve even a third of what it plans to do, then I probably wouldn't buy the shares because it's purely based on growth. We're looking at this. My expectation is 2025, we start to see a lot of the fruits of that. That's about a year away, I think. Obviously, the auto industry has been decimated, so that's really been a drag. We've missed a bunch of earnings. This earnings I actually didn't find too bad. I really enjoyed the energy numbers. That's primarily the segment that I'm really excited about in the near term, as well as Tesla semis. But they're not even coming till 2025. So why I'm buying Tesla is for things that aren't even happening right now. Well, they're happening, but we're not seeing the fruits of those labors, as it were. So that's my word of warning to anyone that's going to complain why I'm buying Tesla. I'm buying it purely based on my expectations for future growth. I run a couple of models and the numbers are insane. So I'm very excited to be a part of that. Tesla typically nails most of their projects. I mean, you can't argue with Elon and the success he's made in a bunch of his companies. Man's got too much energy, must never sleep. If we look at the chart, obviously we've talked about me wanting price to come down here. I do think price will start rising again as we get closer to year end. When rates come down, we're going to see more front running for this one, purely based on the growth we were expecting. Downside as well, obviously we talked about this confluence here, but there's a lot of support levels. I think going sub 200 would be a bit of a challenge, but if it did, this 180, 170 range is pretty strong. I would love, love, love to buy shares in this price range again. RSI is neutral on the daily. The whales have slid out a little bit on the daily, but not hugely so. That's quite bullish, I think. So I'm not sure we're going to see too much more of a sell-off. Obviously, I'm very excited if we do. But, I mean, the chart doesn't look that bearish to me, not on the daily anyway. Let's take a look at the weekly. Obviously, we have this really big candle on the weekly. But, I mean, yes, it's a large candle, but it's only put us back 1, 2, 3 weeks. The world is not ending for Tesla. It's easier to see all the confluence here. It's just getting really tight there. And then you've got this volume shelf at $180. I think a lot of people will have this as their short target. So if it does come to dropping down this low, obviously they're going to close and flip. So I'm pretty confident that that level will not break. RSI again neutral. The golden cross is still expanding on the weekly, which is nice to see. And flow is still bullish, though it's having a little pause. And the whales are still in. Again, this doesn't look as bearish as it does at first glance with this large candle. It looks much more like a run-of-the-mill backtest, but we'll see how price reacts. If it can break back above this and out, that's probably more bullish than it staying in this area. But if it did choose to chop around in here a bit, I'm not going to complain because I will be buying more shares. Targets wise on this one, I've mentioned a couple of times just now that if price does go lower, I do want to buy. Upside target, I don't really want to sell much, if not anything, for as long as possible on this one. Obviously, we've talked about all the good things coming in 2025. I do have my thesis on this on my website if you want to go check that out. And I've not quite completed my Tesla earnings update. I've been quite busy. It's been really nice weather here in the UK, so I've been taking advantage of that, doing all, garden chores and all that stuff. But if we then move on to the Tesla open options interest, taking a look here, 200, probably the largest support there. Not a whole lot of resistance really. It's thin on the ground. Not a lot of volume. Taking a little look the week out. Bit more bullish again with a resistance of 300. I think a lot of the calls will have a 300 strike for year end. Probably actually we can check that one if we look at the January 25. Oh, it's higher than I thought it would be. Oh, people are really getting bullish into year end on this one then. So that's exciting. Let me just move this down. We are starting to get, well, that's quite impressively high. I think that's way more bullish than I would have expected. 160 is the low around here, 160, 180. Like I've mentioned before, I don't think we'll get that low, even though support isn't super strong, but these resistance levels will be very strong. I actually don't expect us to get to that level by the end of 2025, but we'll see. It depends how all the new products will go, but people do love to front run Tesla, so it could happen. I'm not saying it can't. Taking a little look out to Jan 2026, we've got these high targets again that are continuing on. They're a little bit lower, and then we've got the $300 resistance again. Bear in mind these targets are quite far out, and this is likely to change over the next year, but it's nice to see a snapshot of how the market's feeling today for Tesla's price in a few years.